welcome you to tonight's council meeting. We're just a couple of minutes away from beginning the meeting. Before we do, I'd invite you to stand and join me in the pledge, and then Councilman Mike Lawson will bring the invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day you've given us and all the blessings that you've certainly put on this city the past year. Lord, we just pray that be with those that are sick and be with those that are hurting in a time that the holidays are coming, and just be with them over the next couple of weeks. Lord, just be with us tonight. We have a lot on the agenda. We have a lot to cover. Just be with us, and everything that's said and done glorifies you in the end, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mike. Well, again, welcome to this is a regular meeting of the Springdale City Council. This is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024, and we will start things off with our city clerk treasurer calling the roll, Denise Pierce. Denise?
Mayor Sprouse.
Here.
Brian Powell.
Here.
Amelia Taldo. Jeff Watson. Mike Overton.
Here.
Mike Lawson. Rex Bailey.
Present.
Randall Harriman.
Here.
Mark Fujarus. Ernest Kate.
Here.
All right, thank you. We do have a quorum, and we are at item 4 on the agenda. This is the portion of each meeting the council sets aside to hear brief comments from their citizens. If there's anyone that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not already on tonight's agenda, you're welcome to come to the podium. Please keep your comments brief and understand the council won't be taking action tonight on whatever you bring forward. Is there anyone that would like to discuss an item or address the council concerning an item that's not already on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, approval of minutes. Council, you've had opportunity to look these over. If there are no changes or additions, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. What's your pleasure on procedural motions, council?
I move for A and B.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second for A and B. Let's be a call for the vote.
Carry 6-0.
All right, thank you. Before I move to item 7, and I apologize for not doing this first. I just wrote it down and then I forgot to do it. Just for everybody's information, item 13I, that's a waiver request. That has been withdrawn by the applicant. So we won't be hearing that tonight. Okay? All right. And for items 7 through however many we've got here, 7 through 10, I'll meet each of you at the podium and I'll call you each to come up one at a time, all right? This will be quite an evening for us as we recognize 4 individuals who have served our city with excellence for many, many years, in some cases. And so I'll bring them up one at a time, and certainly want to allow you an opportunity to recognize them, and hear if we'll give them each an opportunity to say something too. First, I'm going to ask Judge Jeff Harper to come up. Okay. Here we go. I think I'll start with a proclamation. We've got a proclamation for Jeff. Whereas Jeff Harper began his career as a police dispatcher with the city of Springdale in 1973, and in 1976 became a police officer with the police department until 1980. And whereas in 1982 and 83, he could be found investigating for the Washington County Prosecutor's Office, he later became the Washington County Deputy Prosecuting Attorney. And whereas Harper was the Springdale City Attorney for 26 years, and since 2013 has served as the Washington County District Judge and has served in that position now for 12 years. Whereas Jeff Harper has served with the City of Springdale in one capacity or another for a total of 33 years and 16 years with Washington County for a total of 49 years of public service in this community. And whereas at the end of 2024, Judge Harper will be hanging up his robes and bidding farewell to enjoy his well-earned retirement. We will miss you. Now, therefore, the City of Springdale, your coworkers and fellow employees, would like to express our deepest gratitude to Judge Jeff Harper, and it has been our pleasure to have served with you, and we wish you the very best in your retirement. Congratulations, Judge.
Appreciate it.
Now, this is in pieces, and it's supposed to be. But this is just Ron, in fact, who's here tonight, matter of fact. Ron Minat, local glass artisan, creates these for our retirement gifts. And please accept this with our deepest gratitude. And with that, Jeff, anything you want to say?
Just brief.
Okay.
I want to thank you all. I don't know if I'll ever be back at another council meeting again, but as Mayor said, I was city attorney 26 years, and I missed 2 council meetings in 26 years. That 35-year-old boy there got sick, and when he was 9 months old, and that's the first meeting I had ever missed as city attorney, and I only missed one other after that. But I was city attorney 26 years, judge 12, and worked for the police department 7. That's a long time. But the one thing I want to say, I worked with 3 mayors, all 3 mayors, Mayor McKinney, Mayor Van Hoos, and Mayor Sprouse, all backed me, whether I was city attorney or judge, and every request I came for personnel or to better my department, they did it, and the council went along with it. And without y'all, I don't believe I would have been a success. So I appreciate you working with me all these years. Denise, been side by side with me since she worked as a high school employee in 1978. She's the best city clerk in the state of Arkansas, and she learned from the best, might enough. And then Rex Bailey, I can go on and on about him, but I really, although he pulls tricks on me all the time, I love Rex Bailey, and he's really served everyone good. My successor is going to be Taylor Samples. I hired him when I was city attorney, and he worked for me 2 years before I became judge. He spent the last 2 months with me. In 2 years, no one will even remember me because Taylor Samples is going to do such a great job, and I really believe he's primed for success in the job. I just want to thank y'all. I wanted to be brief. I know meetings are hard going till 9, 10 o'clock. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Don't sit down, Denise. I know this is going to be your favorite thing to do. Denise Pierce, as she comes, I'll begin reading a proclamation for you. All right? Whereas Denise Pierce began her employment with the City of Springdale on July 24th, 1978, at the age of 17, working in the city clerk's office, and whereas Mayor Charles McKinney issued Resolution 36-95 appointing Denise to the position of Deputy City Clerk in November of 1995. Quote, in the City Clerk of the City of Springdale, Denise Pierce be, she is hereby given and granted full and complete power and authority to act, transact, and perform all duties on behalf of the city clerk, end quote. Ordinance number 2443 was the first document executed by Denise in that position on January 9, 1996. And whereas Denise was first elected to the position of city clerk in November of 1995, that was the only time she was opposed. During her tenure as city clerk, she only fired 1 employee. And I was I haven't read through this. I thought maybe the name would be there, but it's not. Okay. So as of December 31st, 2024, she will have served served as Springdale City Clerk for 28 years. Whereas in July of 2021, Denise was granted the additional title of Nona, where she was blessed with her first grandson, with a second joining the family in 2023. And whereas Denise is always calm and even-tempered and relates to the public, she has been a sounding board and advisor. Her work ethic and example will be felt in the city and city clerk's office for many years to come. It has been our pleasure to have Denise as part of the Springdale family for over 46 years. Now, therefore, the city of Springdale, your department, and your fellow city employees congratulate you on a job well done. Thank you for your ready smile, your friendship, and your positive approach to life. We extend our greatest appreciation to Denise Pierce, and we wish you the very best in your retirement with Mike. That's not easy. And in your continued position as Nona. Congratulations, Denise. Thank you. Yeah. Here, you take that. Here, I've got something for you. It's same as Jeff's. You want me to pull it out? Okay, it's really nice.
And I love it, it has the light.
This has a light on
I
it.
feel special. I
Well,
love that.
you are. And
you.
3 or 4 of you tonight get one with a light.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. All right. Do you want to say something?
I just want to say that Jeff
What-
Harper helped me fire that person.
Oh, we did?
So-
Okay. Right.
No, thank you, everybody. I want to recognize my staff. I'd like them to stand up because I couldn't do my job without them.
We love you.
We love you. Thank you. And my husband, Mike, has been my sounding board. He really. And my daughter and her husband, David, and Noah, and Luke. Love them to death.
Great.
Eric couldn't make it tonight, but thank you all. I love the city of Springdale, and I'm ready to retire.
Well, all right.
And Mike is going to miss me.
He will. Right. Thanks, Denise. I'm going to ask Taylor Sample to come up. Come on up, buddy. Or Judge, sorry. You're the one without a light. You gotta be really old to get a light.
I know, I'm not.
But accept this here's what they look like when you see the whole thing without a light.
All right.
So, thank you for your years of service so far.
Yes, sir.
We know you're not done, and look forward to you becoming our judge, and I know you'll do a great job. So, congratulations on your years, and anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, thank you very much. I know I'm obviously not in the category of the other folks here tonight. And I just want to let you know I'm very grateful for this opportunity to serve as your district court judge. And I'm going to make some mistakes, but I promise I'm going to show up every day and work at it. And please call me, come by and see me. I want to be very accessible. I'm here. I can't ever talk to you about a particular case, but I'd love just to visit with you and come by and watch court. Thank you, Ernest. The city attorney's office man, the city's been really good to me for 14 years now, and they got a lot of great staff members out here. Thank you, Judge Harper, with the great job you've done with the court. I really believe we've got the best district court in Washington County. I'm very fortunate. I know we've got to stay on top of that every day and keep striving to provide great customer service and stay efficient. And I promise I'm going to do my best to do that. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Rex Bailey. Yeah. Oh. You didn't know you've been over that many times today, did you?
No, I did.
All right. My pleasure to read this proclamation. Whereas Rex Bailey was first elected to the Springdale City Council in 1992 to 1996 and served again from 1998 to 2000. And whereas he was called upon to serve on the Washington County Quorum Court from 2008 to 2014, and whereas Rex was also appointed to serve on the city's Public Facilities Board and served for 20 years. Governor Asa Hutchinson appointed Rex to the Arkansas State Barber Board in 2021, and whereas in 2022, Rex answered the call once again when he was appointed to fill a midterm vacancy on the Springdale City Council in 2022. And whereas Rex has always been willing and able to serve in whatever capacity he has been needed, whether locally or statewide, and whereas Rex has served this city in many ways over the years and as a businessman and a city council member, however, we believe his greatest service to our community has been a friend. Barber wasn't mentioned, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Now, therefore, the city of Springdale and your fellow city council members would like to express our deepest gratitude to Councilman Rex Bailey. And it's been our pleasure to have served with you, and we wish you the very best for your future. Congratulations, Rex, and thank you. We've got one of these for you, too.
Mayor, thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the city over all these years. You know, old boy lived in a labor camp, born over here in the labor camp, and was able to do what I've done. And it's the Springdale people that's done it. I love this city. And I, too, have served with the mayor, 3 mayors during my time, and I've enjoyed every one of them. All right, and I thank you.
Thanks, Rex. Hey, don't go anywhere yet.
Don't embarrass me.
We have 3 of the 4 Springdale representatives here from one legislative body to another legislative body. I'll just quick comment. When I got involved in my first political race, people said, "Do you know Rex Bailey?" I said, "No, I don't." And they said, "What's wrong with you? You better go meet him." And I'm so glad I did. And so, citation, Mr. Rex Bailey, whereas Arkansas is blessed with an abundance of citizens whose life's experience provide a wealth of wisdom that serves to guide and influence our state on the road of continual progress. And whereas Mr. Rex Bailey saluted the flag, served under the flag, gave self-sacrificing loyalty to the United States of America. He is a hero who has protected and served others with passion and courage and has had the strength to face so many unknowns. Our veterans are remembered today for their service to our country and their unwavering belief in the cause of freedom, a belief so strong they were willing to give their lives, if need be, in the defense. And whereas Mr. Bailey is a veteran of the United States Army, a former member of the Washington County Quorum Court, a current member of the Springdale City Council, a pillar in our community who was a longtime businessman who owned Bailey's Barber and Style Shop, and after 47 years closed its door this year. And whereas the House of Representatives of the 94th General Assembly of the state of Arkansas takes great pride in recognizing Mr. Rex Bailey for his dedicated and respected service to our United States and the communities of Springdale, Washington County, and Northwest Arkansas. Now, therefore, pursuant to the motion, Representatives Steve Unger, Robin Lundstrom, Rebecca Burks, and Deanne Hodges. And so we present you this flag that was flown over the Capitol on the 6th of September. Thank you.
That's special now. We got to do that. Thank you all again. We'll move on now to item 11, appointments and reappointments. And I'll read through these. This is a 11A is a resolution making a reappointment to the Public Facilities Board of the City of Springdale, asking that the council consider reappointing Jim Crouch.
Move resolution be passed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other questions or comments? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, and thank you to Jim for his willingness to continue to serve. Item B, a resolution for making a reappointment to the A&P Commission, the City of Springdale, Arkansas. This is actually, I think this is two reappointments. It's Councilman Lawson and Councilman Overton. And I've read the resolution.
I move the resolution be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. This will be a call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. And again, thank you guys for your continued work on the A&P Commission. Item C, a resolution making a reappointment to the Springdale Library Board. This is to reappoint Paula Wilson, and I have read the resolution.
Resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion second to adopt the resolution. And the call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, and thank you to Paula. And then item D, a resolution reappointing Philip Taldo to the Northwest Regional Airport Authority.
Move resolution passed.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, and we appreciate Philip's work on the airport authority. Item 12, and I'm going to turn this one over to Ernest, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll read the title of the ordinance, then I'll explain why this is on the agenda. This is an ordinance calling for the simultaneous detachment and annexation of land currently located in Cave Springs, Benton County, Arkansas, pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated 14-40-2101. This is a 22-acre tract of land that's currently in Cave Springs, adjacent to other property that the city has annexed from Cave Springs in the past. Cave Springs has agreed to this, and this ordinance will get the process started to get it de-annexed from Cave Springs and annexed into the city of Springdale. This is at the request of the property owner, and their attorney is here if you have any questions. And I read the title.
Move the ordinance to pass.
Second.
Got an ordinance, got a motion to pass the ordinance and a second. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? And the audience, anybody need to speak to this? All right, seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Okay. Item 13, Patsy Christie, our Director of Planning and Community Development, will bring the Planning Commission report and recommendations. Patsy?
The first item is a request to rezone 28.07 acres located at the southwest corner of Don Tyson Parkway and George Anderson Road. The request is to rezone the property from SF2 to SF3, which is low to medium density single-family residential to medium density single-family residential district. Planning Commission reviewed this request, recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto by rezoning certain lands from at the southwest corner of East Don Tyson Parkway and George Anderson Road from low, medium density, single-family residential district to medium density, single-family residential district, SF3, within Springdale, Arkansas, declaring an emergency.
Patsy, on this drainage, have they got the drainage taken care of, heading?
Well, this is a rezoning request. We don't really analyze all the drainage until we look at a preliminary plat, which we have looked at, and they have provided everything that the engineering department sees it as necessary to move this forward, they'll detain the water on site. They have to do street improvements. We'll get through all that with a preliminary plat, but this is just to rezone the property. And it goes from SF2 to SF3, which is 4 units per acre to 6 units per acre.
I'm not going to be here, so I just want to remind people of the drainage problems down on that south side.
We do know there's a drainage issues down there, and it's being addressed.
Any other,
Was there any, at the meeting, Patsy, was there any opposition to this from the public?
There were several property owners that, in the neighborhood, that were here opposed to it. There was a little bit of confusion from the front end. The first notice went out as a SF23, which doesn't exist. But it's actually going from SF2 to SF3. It's not high-density residential. It's 6 units per acre, not 4. From a 70-foot lot to a 60-foot lot.
I think just also, I know a couple of the emails I got from surrounding residents, one of their big issues was the traffic
Right.
coming out onto Ivy Lane. And the planning commission
Approved.
approved a
A waiver
waiver.
of having to have that connection to Ivy Lane.
right.
But they will still be doing street improvements to city master streets plan standards on that portion of the street, but there won't be any access from the subdivision to Ivy Lane.
Right. I wanted to be sure y'all knew that, because if you got the same emails I did, that was one of their concerns.
I've got the same issues Rex has. I get it's a rezoning, excuse me, but I know that flooding out there is just crazy, and I know it'll be addressed, but I go back and think of the issue we had over by Smith School, where we put in a subdivision. We had draining issues prior, and if you keep in mind, that was a 2018 bond project that we're just now finishing up. And it all related back to that flooding that is really similar to this very situation where it's there prior to. And I know when we add houses and we add streets, it's going to be an issue, in my opinion. And I'm not saying we're not going to handle it, address it, but that's my concern.
Well,
We.
any kind of development, the drainage is going to have to be taken care of.
Yeah, you're right. We've been
Yeah.
dealing with that. And I don't
Yeah.
think there was any on-site drainage improvements to what the one Mike's talking about. I don't know if we didn't require it as stringently or what.
Well,
but
we didn't require on-site detention at that time,
Yeah.
and now we require detention on site.
You know which one we're talking about there, Ben? South of, or north of Smith School?
Yeah, I assume
Yeah.
it's the French chandelier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no detention required when that subdivision went in. Now
My-
detention's required or other mitigation. So this won't solve the flooding that's going on downstream. It'll make it no better, and it'll make it no worse.
Yeah, just the plans I've seen that on the plat would show, just for y'all's information, it would, I know we're not dealing with that tonight, but it would show the detaining structure over, around where that floodplain is, wouldn't it? Over toward, on the west side of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they are working through it. Any other comments or questions? I'd entertain a motion, and then certainly we'll get to the audience as well. If we don't want to make a motion yet, I'll go ahead and bring them up. Okay?
Hi, I'm Bobby Cole. I'm live on 4293 St. Albans Street there in the Enclave, and I appreciate y'all bringing up the fact exactly some of the concerns that the Enclave have. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm not speaking just for myself. I'm speaking for the residents because I am the unpaid president for the Enclave. We did put a petition together, and there were 64 signatures. There's 64 units in the Enclave, and I just wanted you to point out some of the issues that we have here. Of course, I appreciate them saying that there's nothing going to be on Ivy Lane, and I know the builder did not want that too because it's a very rural road. If you've ever been to Ivy Lane and George Anderson Road, it is a very rural road and not very good for traffic flow. Of course, Ivy Lane is very narrow, and there's some hills there that it's blind spots for us coming out, which I know they're not going to have anything on Ivy Lane, but that's not going to stop the 200 houses that's going to be built there under this SF3 to try to go back in toward Fayetteville and use a light and come down Ivy Lane. So that's some of the concerns. Also, there's a blind spot there on Ivy Lane and George Anderson that would need to be addressed also. Not to mention, if you've ever been on George Anderson Road, there's a one-lane bridge down there to the south of it that's in need of a repair already, and that's going to increase some traffic over that. Also, the intersection of Ivy Lane and Old Missouri, which all of you know, there's about to be the new crossing there that's going into the Greenway. If you've never been there trying to get out from Ivy Lane, there's a curve right there. And if you do a crossover, that is going to create such a blind spot. Right now, trying to take a left coming out of Ivy Lane, which is really our only way to get out onto the main road, it's a blind spot and you're risking your life coming out of there, especially from 7:30 to about 9 and from about 4:20 until 5:45. So it's pretty dangerous. Also, on Don Tyson, Don Tyson's become a speedway. And I know there's already been several accidents on Don Tyson and George Anderson because there's a hill there that crests. And when you're coming off of George Anderson, you can't see the traffic coming from the left. Very dangerous. I'm now going to my work through there and I have to hustle. I press it to get out of there so I don't get hit. Those are just a few things that we would like to make sure that are addressed. The safety issues alone of having 200 houses right there. The other thing that I would like to mention too is that if you've never been to the Enclave, we have our only one way in and one way out. And there's 64 units there. Those units were scheduled to be the same thing in SF2, but there's only 2 houses per acre there. The subdivision was really hoping that that would be similar. I can't stop progress, and we know that, but it would be really nice to have an SF2 stay there, to have a little bit more property, to have a little bit more drainage. And you've already mentioned the serious flooding. And if you noticed, if you looked at the stuff that we sent you, anything around the Enclave is in a floodplain. We're just barely up out of it. And so all that's going to do is increase more drainage around us. And of course, we all know that all runs right down into Lake Fayetteville. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate your time. I hope you reconsider this. I don't want to stop it, but I'd like to be at least an SF2 to give us a little more property around us, and appreciate your time. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so. Thank you, though.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate that.
Good evening. I'm Rachel Haskins, 2015 Balmoral Avenue. I live in the Enclave. You heard from our Homeowners Association president about the nuts and bolts of why Jacobs Crossing without some changes is a bad fit. What I have to say is intensely personal. At the beginning of every council meeting, you pray to God to make the right decisions. I hope you take that prayer into account and to heart tonight. When I sit on my patio at night, I can hear cows mooing 2 streets over, coyotes howl in the distance, and fortunately, they're all away from each other. Metaphorically, the proposal before you for a high-density subdivision in that area is the wolves at our door. Nearly 100 lots, 6 houses to an acre. Here's a clinical word for it, infill. It can be as bad as it sounds. Members of the council, before you do what a new developer wants, you need to remember those who already live there, who contributed to Springdale for years. As the wise old sage says, you dance with the one who brung you. Our subdivision is 2 houses to an acre. We take pride in it. When I looked at moving back into Springdale a few years ago, I searched hard and found it difficult to find a home that was not right on top of my neighbor. Our neighbors on Ivy are on multi-acre lots. One raises horses and has multiple working barns. The city speaks of affordable housing, but you need to look at each case individually and look to the surrounding areas and ask yourself, does this fit the neighborhood, the surrounding zone, or the surrounding infrastructure? The developer of Jacobs Crossing told us he hopes to sell lots for $90,000 to $100,000 apiece. That's not affordable housing, it's profit-driven housing, sacrificing green space and compatibility of existing neighborhoods and neighbors to squeeze in every inch of a piece of land. During the Planning Commission meeting, when they discussed Jacobs Crossing and how Ivy would be overwhelmed, a member of the commission said that the city had to juggle protection of neighborhood character with affordable housing, which meant high-density neighborhoods. He said he was aware of our safety concerns, but then he said those safety concerns, and I quote, are a secondary thought process in regards to looking at allowing higher density. Is that really how you feel? Because if so, then safety is secondary. Then vote to dump all the traffic on Ivy and allow those houses to be crammed into the land. But if you believe safety is more important, vote to reduce the number of lots, order a traffic study for that area, and put a traffic light at Don Tyson and George Anderson. Zoning takes traffic flow and infrastructure capacity into account, and by overbuilding an area as requested of you, not only would this put strains on our infrastructure, but goes against what the majority of our neighboring residents want. I encourage you to check the map detailing the issue and the intersection of Don Tyson and George Anderson and the blind spot to the west. All traffic from these two subdivisions alone, 120 on the first phase and 95 on the proposed second phase, plus our traffic from our neighborhood, as well as the existing traffic coming down George Anderson, would create disaster. Additionally, Don Tyson is marked a 45-mile-an-hour zone there, and I would encourage you to look at that. Members of the council, this hits us where we live. We have the right to responsive government and to live in our homes in a safe, pleasant neighborhood. Jacobs Crossing, as drawn up, threatens the character of everything around us, not just us. It would overwhelm our streets and spoil what makes the area so attractive in the first place. We understand a new neighborhood is being built, and I'm not here tonight to stop that. I urge you to consider keeping the zoning as is and to maintain the fit of the surrounding neighborhoods. And for our safety, order a traffic study for the corner of George Anderson and Don Tyson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Patsy, am I dreaming, or did something come up at Planning Commission about a traffic study? We didn't order one? I thought something was said.
Statement was made by Katie that we didn't believe that the volume of traffic would warrant a signal at Don Tyson and George Anderson, but that if the commission thought it necessary, one could be required. They didn't think that was necessary.
They didn't indicate that. Okay. Is that something this council could do?
Sure.
Think about. While we're waiting on a motion one way or the other, I could venture to say that rezonings are some of the toughest things we deal with. And I know the Planning Commission could say the same thing. Because it is a balance. You're trying to balance, you've got existing property owners, but then you've also got someone who's invested heavily in a piece of land that I don't think we can all expect just to be cows all the time from now on. So I appreciate some of the comments that you're not trying to stop a development. You would like to see some changes to it. And I did hear that, and I appreciate it. But these are difficult decisions that the council makes because you're trying to balance a lot of things.
This property was purchased from the school district, too.
It was purchased from the
At
school
one
district.
time, it was considered as a location for a school.
Right, and that would have created a lot more traffic than an SF3.
It would have created a different traffic pattern than what?
It would have been a lot more traffic at least twice a day.
Yes,
So,
that's true.
Patsy, is there going to be an exit on George Anderson? or
They will
not?
have one access in off of George Anderson and one access off of Don Tyson.
Say again where they're proposing to do the improvements.
They would have to do the improvements on their half of the street on George Anderson and their half of the street on Ivy, the full length of the property, to Master Street Plan standards, which I think both of those are collectors.
Ivy's local, George Anderson
Okay.
collector.
Yeah.
They have to improve the walk on Don Tyson.
Yeah, they would have to widen the walk on Don Tyson as well.
Tyson.
Yeah. And the other side of the street on George Anderson is being done with the other subdivision. And they've already done some widening on that with the phases that's already been approved.
Yeah, you don't see it on the map, but if you're not familiar with the area, Council, the SF3 to the east is already being developed.
And the colors are really hard to see the difference between the SF2 and the SF3, but the property right to the east is already zoned SF3. First phase has already been approved. I don't know that the final plat has been filed yet, but it's getting really close if it hasn't been.
So did you say 200 houses? Is that like worst case? But after you see the plans, that could go down as well?
I don't remember the exact number of lots that's on there, but it can't exceed 6 units per acre. And there's a lot of area that's in the floodplain and all that they're not going to be able to build into, plus the detention, you take streets and all of that out of it.
I think it's 94. 94 lots is what's proposed in this development.
Okay.
The others are being built now.
Yeah.
So when they say 200, they're talking about both.
Okay.
I'm not sure I understood what you just said. What's being built now?
The one we're considering tonight, if developed as an SF3, would have 94 lots in it. The east side of George Anderson Road is being developed as we speak as an SF3 with 100 and some lots. I don't remember the exact number.
And the main access off of Don Tyson Parkway and the access that comes out to George Anderson is all part of Phase 1. And that street improvement has been completed.
So really, George Anderson, at least for the stretch from Ivy to Don Tyson Parkway, will pretty much be improved on both sides.
Except for that area where the O1 is, unless we work
The
out a
O1
way
to the south, yeah.
to partner with a developer to make sure we get that last little piece done, so that we have a complete street all the way to
All right,
Ivy. And we haven't looked into that yet, I don't think, have we? Not yet.
okay.
I move the ordinance be adopted.
Second, just so we have an answer.
Okay, we've got a motion, a second. Other comments or questions, council? Anyone else in the audience? If you'll, okay. All right, this will be, if y'all can get it up on the screen, we'll call for the vote.
Fails by a vote of 5-1.
All right, Patsy?
Can we go back to the PowerPoint, please? Whoops, wrong way. Let's try the other way. The next item is a request to rezone 3.08 acres located at 1434 and 1402 Spring Creek Avenue. The request is to rezone the property from General Commercial District C2 to Medium High Density Multifamily Residential District MF16. Planning Commission reviewed this request and recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto by rezoning certain lands located at 1434 and 1402 Spring Creek Avenue from General Commercial District C2 to Medium High Density Multifamily Residential District MF16 within Springdale, Arkansas, declaring an emergency. If you'll remember, when this subdivision was put into place many, many years ago, all of the property along 265 was left as commercial. This is taking a very small portion of that commercial on the north side of Spring Creek and making it into medium density now that it has access to a trail, leaving the commercial that still abuts 265, and it would still remain commercial to the south of Spring Creek Avenue.
Patsy, directly to the south, is not that single family?
Part of it is single family, yeah, it's part of the end of that subdivision, single family, yes. It doesn't have, that portion of it doesn't have access to Spring Creek. It all accesses off of Don Tyson And the property further on to the east, all access is off of Spring Creek, and then it has an access to Don Tyson as well. And this is where the food truck court is, and Dollar General and Casey's are those commercials to the south of Spring Creek.
So when we're looking at these, you know, we have a sewer issue over that direction. Is that weighed in? I mean, I guess all the developers know that
Yeah.
they're on
They have to go
hold
through
and-
Springdale Water to get the understanding about capacity. You know, they are working on that lift station that's right there just to the north of this property. That's where they're putting the holding tank in, and I don't think this particular piece of property has a capacity issue because it's right there next to it. And they are looking to put townhomes on it. We have a large scale that shows townhomes going on at this location.
You might have said it, but what was the vote at?
The vote was 8-1.
Patsy, I don't understand the color coordination here. There's no label of what pink and green.
Well, the dark pinkish color is regional commercial area. The purplish color is just general commercial. The yellow is single family or low density
So we
residential.
really don't have anything in front of us to show what the surrounding areas are zoned, correct?
No, I think we
Kind of
took,
like we did on the one right before this?
yeah, I think we took, well, we had the same kind of, yeah. I think we got the wrong map in here because it's it should be in your packet. I just didn't put that.
Do you know what that just to the north is?
It's C2. It was apartments that were built in a C2 zone because they were a conditional use in a C2 for several years.
I apologize, Patsy. It is in the packet.
It's in your packet. I just was trying to cut down on the number of slides so we could go a little quicker. But those apartments were built when multifamily was allowed as a conditional use in the C2. And we took that out years ago when we reevaluated the commercial districts, created C5 for regional type commercial, C2 is more of a general commercial, and we took multifamily out of C2 completely.
Does Patsy, does this have anything to do with item E? Item E, does this have anything to do with item E down our list? I've got the same drawings for both of them.
It's the replat of that subdivision, and basically what we're doing is replating those two lots and adjusting the line a little bit further to the west for the multifamily. That's all it is. It's a plat, it's a subdivision already. I can go on forward and show you what that looks like. So you can see where the original lot line was, and it's moving a little bit further to the west to create a little bit larger lot for the multifamily. That's all that replat is. Yeah. Did we ask for comments already? Or we don't have a motion yet?
Don't have a motion
Don't have
yet.
anything to do yet. Okay.
And this is not an appeal. This is the
No,
planning
this is-
commission
This is
recommended.
the planning
approval.
commission's
8 to 1.
recommendation, right.
Okay.
Yeah. This is not an appeal. Planning commission recommend approval of the rezoning request.
I'll move the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions or comments with the council? Anyone in the audience need to speak to this? Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Carries 5-1.
Move emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Emergency clause passes 6-0.
Emergency clause are included because of pending action on these properties. Can we go back to the next request is to rezone 23.7 acres from A1 to SF3 and C5. And you can see the split between the two. The C5 is at the intersection of Don Tyson Parkway and Butterfield Coach. The Planning Commission reviewed this request recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, the plat pertaining thereto, to rezoning certain lands located at 3448 Butterfield Coach Road, the northwest corner of Butterfield Coach Road and Don Tyson Parkway, from Agricultural District A1 to Medium Density Single-Family Residential District SF3 and Thoroughfare Commercial District at C5 within Springdale, Arkansas, declaring an emergency.
And what do those colors around that represent?
Well, it represents low-density residential all the way around it and commercial at that intersection.
Some of that is SF3 and some is SF2
Right,
around
correct.
to the north and the west.
Correct.
Across the street is the phase one.
The one we just talked
Of the
about.
SF3 we just talked
The
about.
area to that, not right directly across the street, but the property to the west that's undeveloped on this piece of property. That other subdivision's been there a long time.
Yeah.
And it's SF2.
Okay. Remember what the vote was on this?
It was 8 in favor, 1 abstention.
One abstention. Okay.
So whoever is developing this is going to put a commercial
In the corner,
in,
correct.
in the corner. We don't know what it is, but, I mean,
It would be whatever's allowed in a C5.
yeah.
Yeah.
Be nice if it was a restaurant or something like that
Yeah.
out there.
Would-
When you go out that direction, you go out to the park out there, there's nothing out there, guys, nothing. You gotta come back into town to get something, you know.
Move the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions or comments with the council? Anyone in the audience? All right, call for the vote.
Carry 6-0.
Emergency clause will be adopted.
Second.
All right, call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carry 6-0.
The next item is a request to rezone 1809 South Pleasant Street from C1 to C2. This is a location that had a tire shop in it for years, and it closed down for more than 6 months, so that in order for it to be open back up for automobile services, it needs to be rezoned to C2. Planning Commission reviewed this request and recommends approval of the rezoning request. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto by rezoning certain lands located at 1809 South Pleasant Street, the northeast corner of South Pleasant Street and Schmeeding Avenue, from Neighborhood Commercial District C1 to General Commercial District C2 within Springdale, Arkansas, declaring an emergency.
Move the ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions or comments, council? Anyone in the audience? Okay, call for the vote.
Carry 6-0.
Emergency clause will be adopted.
Second.
Okay. Call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carry 6-0.
The next item is the replat of lots 4 and 5 of Spring Creek Estates that we just looked at, adjusting that lot line. Planning Commission reviews this replat and recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance accepting the replat of lots 4 and 5 Spring Creek Estates Phase 1 to the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and declaring an emergency.
The ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Other questions or comments? Anyone in the audience? All right, call for the vote.
Carry 6-0.
Emergency clause will be adopted.
Okay, call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carry 6-0.
The next item is the final plat of Deer Creek subdivision Phase 3. Planning Commission has reviewed this final plat, recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance accepting the final plat of Phase 3 of Deer Creek in the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and declaring an emergency.
Everything good?
Everything good?
Okay.
They still have to submit their bonds and all that stuff before it actually gets signed, but we've got everything we need to move it forward to be approved.
Move the ordinance pass.
We've got a motion, a second, to approve the ordinance. Other comments or questions? Any residents that need to speak to this? All right, I'll call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Emergency clause be adopted.
All right, and we'll call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carries 6-0.
The next item is the final plat of Phase 3 of Cottages at Clear Creek. Planning Commission reviewed this final plat, recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance accepting the final plat of Cottages at Clear Creek Phase 3 to the City of Springville, Arkansas, declaring an emergency.
Can you go back to the other map, please? Showing, did you have one showing the location?
Yep.
Yeah. Just for me, thank you.
Move the ordinance be adopted.
So I'm assuming everything's good on this too?
Yes. It's
Like
probably
a-
the best section we've got out there so far.
Second.
Got a motion, and a second, to approve. Anyone in the audience need to speak to this? All right, let's call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
And call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carries 6-0.
And the last item is a final plat for Via Emma subdivision, which is the location of the Via Emma apartment complex. It has been in 2 or 3 different subdivisions. We're putting it all, this is all where Layman's was over the years. We put it all together into one plat, and it would create one Tract A of Via Emma subdivision. Planning Commission reviewed this, recommends approval. The title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance accepting the final plat of the Via Emma subdivision to the City of Springdale, Arkansas, declaring an emergency.
Ordinance be adopted.
Second.
There we go. We got a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions, council? Anybody in the audience? All right, let's call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Move the emergency clause be adopted.
Motion and second for the emergency clause. Call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. I'm going to turn item 14, an appeal, over to Ernest.
Thank you. Item 14 is an appeal of the Planning Commission's denial of a rezoning request on property located at 1752 Wagon Wheel Road. The request was to rezone from C2 to C5, I believe, and it failed at Planning Commission by a vote of 4-3. And they have properly perfected their appeal, and it's on the agenda for consideration.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Logan Vickery. I'm from Friday, Eldridge, and Clark. I want to do a little housekeeping here before we get into it too much. When this application was initially made, the land was owned by Arkansas Boat and RV Storage. When the application was being done, they were in talks with selling this land to its current owner, which is GP Tango LLC. And that's who I represent here tonight. As Ernest talked about, we lost with in front of the Planning Commission by a vote of 4-3, but there was a couple members missing, and we believe this would have went the other way had they been there that night. The request here is a simple one. The entire piece of property is 16.74 acres. We initially asked to rezone the front 8.74, which butts up to Wagon Wheel Road, from C2 to C5. And what that allows us to do is have an open-air retail space, which allows a business that's currently in Springdale to stay in Springdale, importantly. Because of the apprehension that we assume took place in front of the Planning Commission, though we didn't really get an explanation of why it didn't pass. That request to change the 8.74 acres to C5 is now, we've now decreased that to 5.27, just to alleviate any concerns about the size of the area that's going to be C5. I think it's important, to understand that, we've all been down Wagon Wheel Road, and we know how commercial of an area that is. This is still within, the commercial parameters. It's just simply changing from one commercial type to the other commercial type. So we ask that you reconsider the Planning Commission's decision and adopt our request to change that front 5.27 acres to C5.
Let me ask a quick question because I'm not sure I understood that just right. I see on the hand, or on what's in our packet, it shows 4.89 acres, C5.
Yes, so I noticed that. Tim, are you here tonight?
Well, that's not the big question for me, but when it was before the Planning Commission, was it the same ask, or were you asking for some of the lots, some of the C2 lots to the north to be also C5?
What it was is, it's all one lot, the 16 acres. The ask at the Planning Commission was 8.74. After the decision at the Planning Commission, we've now reduced that ask. I believe it was 5.27, but Tim, is it now 4? It's probably 489. It's 489. It was at the
So
current ask.
you've changed your request, you've reduced the C5 to 4.89.
Yes,
as is
sir.
shown in our packet.
That's correct.
Yeah. Is there any way we can get that on the screen? I don't want to throw it, no? Okay, thank you.
Patsy, what were some of the concerns on it?
And while Patsy's walking up here, I want to note that, this was fully approved by the staff. It was only when it got to the commission that it got shut down. And so, Patsy and her staff, they approved it. They see it as it fits that commercial use of the area.
So y'all recommended it staff recommended it for approval, okay.
We did, and I think one of the biggest concerns we heard was that it was too deep. It was going too far to the north along Robbins to take the C5 that far north, so bringing it down to the acreage they're asking now really takes care of that corner right there that's on Robbins and Wagon Wheel.
See, there are people here I'm sure to speak to this, and I wish they had a way of seeing the same map I'm looking at. They may understand what we're saying, but
Okay.
anyway.
Can somebody in IT pull it up off of the packet?
I'm looking at red 64. You're right,
The appeal doesn't come from my office, so I didn't load those
right.
files in. Is there any way IT can go to the
Or
packet?
I
You're
think
not gonna find
they
it on
changed
here.
the screen, so I'm thinking they may be looking at it, but I
Well,
don't
you're
know.
not gonna find it on my PowerPoint, because it's not
Right.
on there.
I think Jeff, the red page 79 was the ask at Planning Commission, and the red page 60, what did we say?
64.
Is what they've scaled it back to.
Right.
That's what I think they're looking for.
Right. Looks like it goes 200 feet behind those existing buildings on Wagon Wheel. If I'm reading that right. The fire station, let's see, help me, Blake. You're probably not looking at this. It's to the east, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, that'll be Station 10. Is it right across the street on that corner, or is it further east? It's further east, isn't it? About 2 blocks east. Okay. Would anyone in the audience like to go ahead and speak to this while the council's mulling it over?
Is there any C5 out there anywhere?
No.
But when you go further on to the east towards 71, you'll find some.
Closer to 71, there's C5, okay. And I,
Map on the way here, within a few blocks, there's already C5. That's kind of part of our story here.
okay.
It's Ron Minot. I live on 4900 North Graham Road. So the question I have is, so Billy is no longer owning this land, or has it just changed name? Because I looked at it looked like he was still signing off on the paperwork.
There is a new owner.
Okay. So part of this doesn't pertain to it, but it does too, for the neighborhood. It appears Billy has decided to lessen the footprint on the C5 warehouse district. Now, there may be a question about it in warehouse district, but as is always pointed out to everyone, the worst case scenario that can happen on that location will be what happens there. Is this a good idea to lessen the footprint? I would say no. The property owners around 1752 have been told for years that when Billy gets the land, we would be proud of the location as a neighbor. He said it would be just for storage of boats and motorhomes with little traffic in and out. He was going to have low lighting and wrought iron fencing, landscaping, and it would be an asset to the neighborhood. What we got was a red dirt pit that when it rained, red mud would flow into Spring Creek. The retention pond that he built did not retain the water to let it settle out. ADEQ and Springdale Stormwater Engineering regularly had to have talks with Sweetser Construction about it. When the wind comes up in the springtime, we normally have constant red dust clouds coming at our houses. During the summer growing season, we regularly have to call code enforcement to report Sweetser for not maintaining the edges around the road. It took at least 4 years for him finally to get to remove the equipment that he had stored on the property. So now it is 8 years and nothing has been done with this property. And Billy has decided that if he wants to have a monument store in the front of it, then which will require rezoning of almost 5 acres for a business that will sit on a 300 by 100 foot plot of land. Why not just rezone that to C5? You can see why the neighbors do not believe that a monument store is nothing more than an excuse to start rezoning a 16-acre piece of land that will become a dedicated warehouse, commercial large-scale site, or large limited manufacturing location. I know that some people would say that I don't know that it will become this, but as been said before, the worst case that will happen, that if it is permitted for a C5, will happen on that property. This is a residential neighborhood where there are over 400 to 500 homes within a mile of this piece of land. By allowing Billy to put a warehouse district within this residential district, and hopefully there's a map, because I asked, okay, it's in your all's packets. You can see how many houses.
I think we've got it up there now, Ron.
Yeah, well, this is not showing south. This is not showing the 400 to 500 houses.
I got you.
In your all's packets, it's showing those houses. And that doesn't include Callahan Mountain, all the houses that are currently on Wagon Wheel. This is a residential neighborhood where over 400 to 500 homes are within a mile of this piece of land. By allowing Billy to put a warehouse district within the residential area, you will cause a decline in our property values, quality of life, and degrade our sense of what a neighborhood is. The area between Robbins and Silent Grove is a residential area, as you can see in your packet. By by allowing Billy to rezone the C5, it will cause the subdivision on Robbins that is currently being developed for homes to become almost impossible to sell. Who wants to buy $900,000 home looking at a warehouse district? The 30 acres west of this piece of land has been looked at as a residential area, but they are probably waiting to see what happens at 1752 Wagon Wheel. Living next to a warehouse is not what most people want. I know that the city would like to have all the land fronting Wagon Wheel to be a commercial since it is a major east-west road. But since there are a lot of homes that are already on that section of Wagon Wheel between Silent Grove and Robbins, why not exclude a C5 business since the worst-case scenario would not serve anyone in our neighborhood? As I said at the first of this, a monument store is only a ploy to get the C5. After that is rezoned, the rest of the property will be too valuable for just a monument store. We have a C1 right next door. It does provide a service that is used by our neighbors. The C2 on the other side of Robbins will have a fire station, which we'll definitely use. A C5 does not fit in here. Please allow us to keep our neighborhood a neighborhood, not a warehouse. And the last two things, I will try to finish this up quickly. The map shows that C2, the only access that it will have to that is on Robbins. And from what I understand, you can't put a C5 on a secondary street, which Robbins is. It has to be on, as you all put it on in your paperwork, encourage the development of light and medium density commercial development on arterial streets that provide adequate setback and buffering. And so the question I have is, if their only entrance onto that piece of that C5 is going to be on a secondary road, how does that work with what you're all saying that you should have? So that's basically it. And the last question I have is, Billy states in his letter that he plans to sell it as soon. He obviously has already sold it, so that rezoning will have a minimal effect on surrounding properties. In what world is putting a warehouse district in a residential neighborhood not a major impact on all of our lives? It is definitely going to impact us with a warehouse district there or the worst case scenario in there.
Ron, I'm going to ask Ernest to address the term warehouse district.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure I agree with that.
Well,
we'll let him address it.
Okay,
and
go ahead.
You can
Go
talk
ahead.
with him. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that I know you had prepared remarks and somebody's name came up a lot.
Yes.
But in my view, and if this gets to me to vote, whether I would vote for this or against this, I just wanted to caution you that it's not going to be because of what a previous owner did. It's
Oh,
going
I
to
understand.
It's going to be because of what is proposed on this property.
Okay.
Okay? Ernest, you want to address the warehouse?
Sure. The zoning request is the C5 thoroughfare commercial district. The only warehouse that would be allowed in a C5 is by conditional use dedicated warehouse use unit 24. It's not warehouse is not a permitted use in a C5.
What are the biggest differences, just quick, between C5 and C2? What are the main reasons someone would want to rezone a C2 to a C5? Outdoor storage? What else?
Just while Patsy's walking up, I mean, our purpose is to allow for an open retail space for the monument store. This keeps the Springdale business in Springdale. That's the intention.
Right, thank you.
The difference is outdoor storage. The fact that you can have drive-through lanes, you couldn't put a restaurant on there with a drive-through unless it goes to C5. That's the way those things are set up. So those are the two major differences. Yeah. Yeah.
You could put a restaurant there, but you couldn't have a drive-through.
In a C2, he could put a restaurant there, but he can't have a drive-through. That's correct. Yeah.
So the question is, if I'm looking at this, can you put a C5 on a secondary street? And because they can only get onto that piece of land because there's a retention pond to the east and the other business is right to the left. So there's no place to go unless you go up Robbins to get onto that C5.
The ordinance requires it has frontage on a major street. Not always do we want them to front out onto that thoroughfare so that we can control access and direct them to a place where we can control access to it. And so this is not the only place this happens. We're going to have it on the other end. We have it in other places too. We don't want driveways every 150 feet or 75 feet down through there. If we've got the ability to bring it off of a side street, that's what we want to do.
Okay.
So commercial large sites, that's one thing that's permitted for this, correct? And dedicated warehousing, limited manufacturing. It says here on C5s, I mean, it says conditional use.
The conditional use, Ron.
So once they get this, they will have to come back to the planning and get them to go, yeah, you can put a warehouse or it's not going to be, it's not impossible to put a warehouse here.
No, it's not impossible. It's no different than any other conditional use. In order to apply for that conditional use, we're going to have to see a site plan that see how it works, because it's not just automatically and they have to meet minimum standards. We can set whatever standards we need to for conditional use. We do that in all kinds of districts, including a C5.
So Patsy, I'm sorry, Ron. Go ahead. I don't understand the picture that we're looking at up there and in front of us. Is that, what is all this white stuff? Is that just proposed or?
They're
'cause that's
showing you
not
where
there right now.
no, they're showing where they could possibly lay it out. There's a detention pond on that corner. Whether or not the detention pond has to stay to that size has to be determined
That's a
when we get a.
proposed picture. It's not really what's
Right,
there
there's
right
nothing
now.
there, but it's all red dirt. It's been, when it was in Bethel Heights, they were allowed to come in and take all kinds of dirt and stuff off of that, create a detention pond on that corner, and
Okay,
never
so
got anywhere.
Since we have the picture, what is the tan rectangle south of the white area?
Well, I know. It's probably going to be an outdoor display area where you put stuff along the street. I would imagine if it's Emerson, it would be where they put monument, tombstones sit out front. Whatever they could put out there. We have regulations on how you can open display and how it has to be screened and how it has to be landscaped. But we would get into all that stuff when we get into a large scale. Whether it's a monument place or anything else, whatever you put in there, it still has to go through large scale in order to be approved. If they wanted to do a dedicated warehouse or limited manufacturing, it would have the extra step of having to do a conditional use with the site plan that we have all that worked out on the front end.
And again, I apologize, Ron, and I'm playing catch up here with you, Mayor. Can you go back over the 4.89 acres? And was it originally requested all of that entire area to be?
They were requesting 8.7 acres.
So about
They have-
twice that.
Yeah, they have scaled it back down to just that 4.89 acres. So those 3 future lots on that future street will still be Zone C2. And the area on the north side of that will still be rezoned C2. Anything that's allowed into C2 zone. Again, it would have to come in with a large scale or a non-large scale, depending on the size, in order to do that. They haven't subdivided it into any lots because now it's all just one track. So we haven't seen the subdivision plat, we haven't seen any large scales, we haven't seen anything on it because we're just talking about the rezoning request.
Thank you. And now, Ron, I asked this question a while ago, and you stood up and said, nope, there's no C5. And then this gentleman said, yeah, there is, just a couple of blocks down. So I can't see it on the pictures that we're looking at. So where do you think the closest C5 is?
Scooters is probably,
Scooters
Scooters
on the corner.
Coffee.
At the corner is C5. Yeah, because they have a drive-in. Yeah, 71 Business and Wagon Wheel, they had to go to C5 because they wanted to put in a drive-through. The
Where is
ATM,
along Wagon Wheel, though?
the ATM that's there that Arvest had in today's zoning classification would have to go to a C5.
About all the way, if we go all the way over to the west where McGaw RV, maybe it's not called that anymore, but is that?
Well, those
that's-
are still A1, they have never been
That was
rezoned.
pre-existing.
Yeah, And then you go to the other end, you'll see C5 on the other end at 49 and 45th Place, and all of those in that area too, because there's a White Oak Station. And
They were there before they came
some of
into
those
the-
have changed,
Oh,
because
some
that
of them have
subdivision
changed.
came in as a C2 as well and has had to be upgraded to a C5.
So the RV place can
I think it's
formerly
still
McGaw's,
A1.
it can stay A1 until they ask to, as long as they comply with their conditional use.
Well, no, they
They
are
don't have a conditional
non-conforming
use, they're
use.
grandfathered in.
And as long as they don't shut it
Gotcha.
down for 6 months, they
Right.
can keep it just as it is.
Gotcha.
Correct. Yep.
So the boat and RV that was supposed to go here before was a C2?
And you have to remember that went through Bethel Heights. And I think it actually, I don't remember what zoning classification it was in Bethel Heights, but when we transferred it over, we converted everything that was a certain zoning classification to certain ones, and that's how it got to be a C2.
So all of
They
this,
went through that
all of
process.
this that happened,
Right.
that the neighbors are
Having to
rightly
deal with,
upset
yeah.
about, happened when it was Bethel Heights.
Right, that's correct. Yeah. We
Well,
inherited
but you
a really
converted
unique
it from
situation.
Bethel Heights to Springdale, and it converted to C2.
Right. Because there was a conversion for the zoning classifications in Bethel Heights. Everything that was, and I think it was C1, went to C2, everything. And I think they only had maybe one, maybe two commercials. I don't remember. It's in the ordinance if we go back and look. There was a conversion table in there that we converted everything to.
It was as similar as possible with our
Yeah.
zoning, with the Bethel Heights zoning was absorbed in our planning.
And we did the same thing with residential. That's how we got SF2. They got some MF4s and MF12s because their lot sizes were similar. I mean, there's no other way to do it except to go in and do a conversion table and convert everything that's been done in the past. And we did not find or did not get a copy of the large scale that went with the boat and RV when it transferred over, because I think it actually had expired long before we took it in, because it's been that way for many, many years.
So to answer your question about where the closest one is, out in Business 71, that's probably at least a half a mile from this piece of land, maybe a little bit further than that. And then you go west. Well, what we're asking is the area between Robbins and Silent Grove is predominantly, in your all's packet, you all see the photograph of how many houses that are in that area. And we have talked to all of the POAs in those, I've talked to the three main ones that are sitting right there. And there has not been one group that said, yes, we'd like to have a warehouse because, we have something that is potentially, if it's permitted there, the worst case scenario is that could be put on that place. So that's our concern, is it will eventually roll over to, if they come back and say, look, we'd like to put it in there. Why not just do the small section that the monument shop's there? I mean, that's the piece of land they're wanting to do. Why are they doing the additional part? I know you all can't tell them what to do, but you can deny them, you can deny the 4.89s. If they have to have a C5 for a monument outdoor, they've got it already plotted there. I'm assuming that the pale tan thing is going to be the monument store and the parking lot right behind it. So that's my request, is to deny the 4.89 acres, because if you look at that subdivision right to the east of that, there's going to be 19 homes that are going to be fronting into right now it's a red dirt pit. So I will stop it at that.
Yeah, whatever's done, if anything we're talking about is going to improve things, in my opinion.
I'm Stacy Wyatt, 4675 Robbins Road, Springdale, formerly Bethel Heights, never claimed Bethel Heights. I'm the only homeowner here tonight that looks at this. And I know a couple of you guys. So my house is the second house next to the red where Cesar and Jesus are building
The house
Lexington.
furthest to the north of those two?
Yes, the one that
Okay.
sits back. I'm A1, thank you, I appreciate, being still farm. The house to the south of me that Jesus and his wife built to sell, listed for a little over $1 million. It was on the market 11 months. It did not sell. He has employees living there. Okay? I invited Patty's whole group to come over and have iced tea with me. Come sit on my porch, where for the last 7+ years, I've looked at what was Mrs. Ford's beautiful farm and is now a red dirt pit. Mr. Sweetser's out of it. He messed us all over up there. It's a drainage nightmare. My farm floods. We never flooded before. My husband's family's owned that farm for over 100 years. And now we flood. It runs down that little hill, and my garden washes out. It's a mess. We're excited about the new fire station. I wish you were across the street from me. But what I'm saying is, we understand that we're going to have a neighbor. We're a 2-lane road, a wide 2-lane road, but a tractor trailer doesn't need to drive up that road. Okay? One of my grandkids lives with me. He catches the bus in front of the house. You've got the new neighborhood. They're going to have kids, right? They're going to catch the bus on Robbins. Do we really want that extra traffic? It's not safe. Okay? Where the Monument Place wants to go, there is not room on Wagon Wheel. It's a very narrow piece of property to pull in there. A tractor trailer is going to have a hard time. How do I know this? I deal with warehousing every day. I work for Farmers Co-op, and I have tractor trailers who pull in my warehouse every day. I know what it takes to turn one around. There's a retention pond there that, as pointed out, doesn't hold water. It's an eyesore. We need it. EPA says we need it. Okay. I don't know how you're going to get in and out of there other than with a vehicle, a 4-wheel vehicle, unless you go almost in front of my house. So I would encourage you to please leave it as C2. Have them come in if they're truly going to do this. What do they need with that other 4.8? They're going to do something with it that is going to have to come in off of a residential road. A residential road where high-income housing is being built, and they're not going to sell. And then you're going to have upset landowners who, they've got bills to pay too. So, and it makes me look at where can we move outside of Springdale. And I moved here. TA's grown up here. I mean, Mayor, you know my husband all of his life. We're Springdale. We have chose to stay in Springdale, but we want it safe for our kids, for our grandkids, and we want to be a better part of the community. So I encourage you, regardless who owns that property, leave it at a C2 or something that adds benefits to our property, to what is going on to the west, because that potentially could be another subdivision. Okay? Thank you for your time. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Rex, congratulations.
If I could just make one more comment. We've heard a lot about the past owners, things like that. We want to express, we're sympathetic to what they have gone through in the past. This is under new ownership now. It's important to note this is already commercial land, and we hope that we've shown a proper, good faith effort into shrinking the amount of the ask here to change to C5 to show that, we're trying to help better the overall objective of making Wagon Wheel a good commercial area.
Thank you. Bruce?
I'm Bruce Applegate. I live at 5140 Callahan Mountain Road in Springdale. My wife and I came back to Springdale after a couple of years in Dallas after I graduated from the university. My great-grandfather went to Rogers in the late 1800s and built a business, started a family, was a pillar of the community, was helping, pretty much responsible for getting First Street and West Walnut Street paved with the cobblestones there in Rogers. The business that he started was inherited and grew under the leadership of my grandfather and my father. My Uncle Stanley was Dr. Applegate here in Springdale. And some of you that have been around for a while know how he contributed to the Chamber of Commerce, the Springdale Housing Authority, and Probably you know more about that. So I'm saying all that just to say that I'm not a newcomer. We have roots in Springdale. Ann and I both worked in Springdale starting in 1975. We built our house up on Callahan Mountain starting in '83 and moved in 1984. Raised both of our children in Springdale schools and taught in Springdale schools for a number of years, and then was a stay-at-home mom, and then returned to teaching because there was an opening in Rogers. She taught in Rogers. I think it was all told 19 years as a teacher. So we've contributed in our own ways to progress in Springdale through our service work, through charitable contributions, and so on. But anyway, I just want you to understand how important Springdale and its growth is to us. We have always and hope to continue to support planned growth, thoughtful growth, environmental growth. It's our understanding that there's supposed to be a gradual transition from residential properties to commercial properties. And that's why we have different zones so that you don't put a C5 right in the middle of a residential area. Comment was made about, you drive down Wagon Wheel Road and it's all commercial. I think we established in the conversation that to the east, the nearest C5 is on the corner of 71B and Wagon Wheel. Scooters, I think, is probably what they're referring to, that new coffee shop. Then it's essentially all residential all the way out to, there was the carpet shop, there's a storage space out there, not counting McGaw's because they were there when we built our house. So big, long stretch of residential, and we're talking about dropping a C5 right here. So on the right of the picture are 3 existing nice new residences. The red spot on the eastern edge of that is going to be the 19 new residential houses that are under construction. I drove by there today to see how they're coming along. And then you can barely see on the bottom edge all of the, I made Lancaster Drive and Warwick Cove. So, and then to the west, or to the northwest, I guess, that's where Ron's house is. He overlooks this section here. Some of your recipients have seen some of his work. He's donated glass work to the Art Center of the Ozarks when they were in existence. He shows at Crystal Bridges. He can tell you better than I, but he donates to charities in Northwest Arkansas. And even from our house up on Callahan Mountain, we're high enough up that we can overlook this. So I guess the concern that one of the concerns we have is that is not dropping or allowing a C5 in the middle of all this residential area. And it's been pointed out that it's not limited to a monument company. we've bought from Emerson Monument. Our good friends, their father, and I can't remember his name, but he owned Emerson Monument when we first moved here. So if it was just going to be Emerson Monument or something, lawyers' offices that look residential, things that are open, Monday through Friday, low traffic, office hours, things that can fit nicely into a residential area, okay? But even a monument company, they've got to get those stones in there somehow. They're going to come in on big trucks. So essentially what we're looking for is the benefit of one at the expense and detriment of many residents. We've already talked all about the C2 zoning inherited from Bethel Heights, so, we can't go back. We can't take away the C2 that already exists there as much as we'd like to, but we can at least limit it. We've got the new Chief Truman Brewer north-south main thoroughfare. It seems to me like it would make sense if the Planning Commission and the City Council are going to be forward-looking and try to keep this idea of a gradual transition, that closer to Highway 71 business, that ought to be the limit of C5, at least for the near future. There's a lot of land on either side of that Chief Truman Brewer Drive or street that would make a lot more sense to allow C5 development than right here. So essentially, that's what we're asking, is that you, as the final vote tonight on this particular C5, is that you listen to the Planning Commission, you reject this request, plan for the future, at least for the near time, and set Chief Truman Brewer Road as the western limit for C5 zones. Thank you.
Mr. Applegate,
Yes.
right here. By the way, you give it a little history lesson there.
I'm sorry, my hearing.
Okay, a little history that Dr. Applegate delivered me over in the old labor camp. That was a mistake.
I'm glad he did.
So it's his fault.
Thank you. Appreciate your vote.
Yeah, and I know what he was doing 68 years ago tomorrow.
Well, how about that?
You can't blame him for mistakes.
Patsy, I've got a quick question because I know at least one resident has brought up the concerns about the road. As development happens on this, whether it's C2 or C5, they're going to be required to improve their side of the road.
They would have to do their side of the road. Now, I believe there was some road improvements done when it was in Bethel Heights, and I don't think it meets our standards, and we haven't even addressed any of that. But the subdivision will have to do their portions. Now, there's going to be some pieces missing because they're
Right.
not part of that subdivision, but
Right,
yes.
gotcha. I just wanted to.
Patsy, how
be
many
sure I was
people on the Planning Commission?
9.
9, and this was a 4-3 vote, so there was 2 people missing?
Take 5 votes to pass.
What, Patsy, while you're up there?
I wasn't sitting down. I just thought I was.
So earlier, and I'm trying to get my head wrapped around this, earlier when this warehouse thing was talked about, we said that a warehouse cannot come into a C5 unless it's a conditional use.
Correct.
Okay.
Right, has to be a conditional use.
So an open air, and I'm assuming that's what this is, open air market or whatever they're wanting to do, could that be a conditional use in a C2?
No,
Okay.
no. That's why it has to go to C5. To have the open display outside, it has to be C5 with the current ordinance, right?
I'd like to make a motion to overturn the denial of the Planning Commission's rezoning petition, and with the proviso that 4.89 acres be rezoned to C5 and the remaining 11.85 acres remain the C2 zoning.
Okay, we have a motion. Don't worry, Kevin, we'll give you a chance to speak. We have a motion on the table.
I'd like for Kevin to speak.
All right.
My name's Kevin Parsley, 4774 Stonecrest, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to comments. As you know, I served on the Planning Commission for 9.5 years. Mayor Sprouse, I do agree with you. These are some of the most difficult decisions to make. But I do want to take you guys back. I want to say it's probably been 14, 15 years ago when Wagon Wheel was getting widened. And there was a lot of debate on whether or not to have that center turn lane or have that as a boulevard, where you actually had landscaped areas and so forth, and you had natural set breaks that allowed for a mix of commercial and residential to complement one another. Fast forward to today, I was a big advocate for that. There was a couple of property owners that highly influenced city council at that period of time to do that as far as a 5-lane in that whole piece. I call those out because what we're dealing with tonight is an outcome of that result as far as how we zoned and how we actually expanded Wagon Wheel Road to what it is today. You can say it's right or wrong, but that's what boulevards would have allowed to have more defined areas that can help as far as the planning of this is concerned. I just call that out because it's something to think about in that. This is a highly residential and this is a highly commercial thoroughfare as far as Wagon Wheel Roads. I think we can all agree to that after especially the comments today. I think the reason why I bring up as far as the widening of Wagon Wheel and the outcome of what we're dealing with today, how you vote on this as far as with this C5 in this particular location is going to have implications on a lot of properties to the west of that are on Wagon Wheel Road, just to the south of Callahan Mountain. There's 40 acres that's for sale at this point in time, and that is directly across from highly residential areas. I'll also call out and say, I'm not opposed as far as multifamily. When you're buying property like that actually runs up to Wagon Wheel Roads, that's expensive property. Can you make a single-family subdivision work and be able to afford as far as all the curb and guttering and all the sewer and all of those things? That's a big challenge on the developer, and I acknowledge that. So I'm just letting you guys know that I'm a citizen and I'm a resident in that area. I really have been passionate, Brian knows this very well, that we have not done a great job of planning out from a master plan the northwest corridor of the city. And I'll also call out that we're excited that we will have as far as from the airports, an extension coming into our city. That's going to increase a lot of the traffic and a lot of, not only the traffic, but a lot of the opportunity for people to come into the city and be able to buy homes in these nice areas. And I'm proud that I've been in that vicinity for over 20 years now. And we intend to continue to keep our residents there and intend to continue to stay within the city of Springdale. But I do caution you on how you vote on this and the outcome of that in future years that we're going to have to deal with. And so I do believe that there is a place for C5s. You do have as far as Dixieland Road. And when we did approve as far as the extension of that, there are pieces of property that actually go all the way up into the Lowell area that it makes sense as far as for some of that to be C2 or C5 along that Dixieland, because that's going to attract those types of customers to go to those locations. Right next to that is Warehouse District on the north side that really runs along Apple Blossom Road. C2 is, and we were completely in agreement as far as that staying in RV or even storage units, because that actually complements very well to the residential. What doesn't make sense is when you have a road like that that is not designed to be able to have as far as a C5, to almost put something there that doesn't make sense to the rest of the developments. I'll also call out that a property 2 doors from that, I think is a conditional use, Patsy, that was approved. It was rezoned. And which is another one that is a confusing to a lot of how we have had Wagon Wheel develop. So as you do make a decision, there's a motion as far as to approve this as far as a C5. Just think through that as far as when we did approve the widening of Wagon Wheel roads, we did that as a 5-lane. And now we're dealing with decisions like this. The decision you make on this is going to have dramatic impact on those properties just to the west of that. And again, I'm all for development. I'm all for as far as adjacencies of commercial, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And I don't think that this is right as far as the C5. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, we do have a motion to overturn the Planning Commission's denial. Going once. Going twice. All right.
Fails for lack of a second. The Planning Commission's decision is confirmed.
Right, okay. All right, thank you. We'll move on now to the Finance Committee. Is there someone that would like to take that?
Jeff would.
Jeff, is that all right with you?
Item 15A is a resolution concerning property acquisition on Jean George Boulevard extension. And I believe this resolution was forwarded to council with recommendation for approval. I'll read the title to that resolution. A resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds to acquire property from James Taylor and Betty Taylor for the Jean George Boulevard Extension Project, Elm Springs Road to County Line Road, project number 23BPS4. And Ernest, would you mind just briefly addressing that?
Sure. This would, the property owner has extended a counteroffer for an additional $1,300 for the easements, going from $24,900 to $26,200.
Move a resolution be adopted.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the resolution. Any other comments or questions? Anyone need to speak to this in the room? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. Jeff?
Item 15B has to do with the execution of professional services amendment for design services on the Don Tyson extension. This resolution was also forwarded to council with recommendation for approval. Title to this resolution is a resolution authorizing the execution of a professional services amendment for design services on Don Tyson Parkway Extension CP 1518.
And to summarize, this is for a design amendment to perform a traffic signal warrant study at the intersection of the new Don Tyson Parkway Extension and Highway 112. I'm free to answer any questions.
I'll move resolution pass. Second.
We have a motion and a second? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Sorry, I was in a sidebar. All right. Anyone in the audience? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Thank you, council.
All right, thanks.
Item 15C has to do with expenditure of ARPA funds. This resolution was also forwarded to council with a recommendation for approval. I'll ask Kobe to address it. I'll read the title, A Resolution to Authorize the Provision of Government Services for the Citizens of Springdale, Arkansas from the American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA funds.
Thank you, Councilman. Federal government gave an appropriation to the city of Springdale directly in 2020, and it was amount just over $21 million. It was part of the American Rescue Plan Act, and it was to address the pandemic. Part of those funds were able to be used as lost revenue, and the U.S. Treasury gave us a calculation that each year we could come up with how much could go into the second pot of ARPA funds, which was the lost revenue. And of their calculation, $12,529,707 was able to be calculated for lost revenue. The remaining amount that we have to do that, to fulfill that obligation, is $4,940,591. This is the last amount that we have to move from lost revenue into our general fund, and it is to reimburse the city for the salaries of first responders.
Resolution be adopted.
Second. Motion and second to adopt the resolution. Any other questions or comments? Anyone? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Item number 15E has to do with the proposed budget for the year of 2025.
We got to go back and get D. It's almost like C, Jeff. If you want.
Apologize for that.
Colby, you want to go ahead and address?
Sure.
D.
The American Rescue Plan Act also mandates that local governments have until December 31st of this year to obligate their funds or to move their funds over. The last amount that we have is exactly $1 million, and this resolution will move this from the regular ARPA funds into our general funds, and we're using the method of reimbursing overtime for first responders out of our general budget.
Let me make sure that that resolution is on red number 122, correct? All right, and I did read the correct title a while ago on the one we just voted for, I'm pretty sure, so I'll read the title to this,
There you go.
this resolution. A resolution to authorize the provision of government services for the citizens of Springdale, Arkansas from the American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA funds.
Move resolution pass.
Second. Got a motion and a second to approve. Any other questions or comments? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Item 15E is the budget for the proposed budget for year 2025. The council's had several opportunities to consider and discuss this proposed budget. At the last committee meeting, it was forwarded to the council, the mayor's budget, after some changes were made, and it was forwarded to council. There was no recommendation made with that motion to forward to council. The title to that resolution is a resolution approving the City of Springdale, Arkansas budget for the year 2025.
Move a resolution be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other questions or comments?
I want to just express one of my concerns about the budget, and that is when we addressed the purchase of patrol cars earlier this year, I had searched for some way to include that purchase in the 2025 budget. And the reason why I did that is because I believe that patrol cars is an item that should be in our budget every year. And that's why I voted against that purchase in the middle of the summer. It concerns me that it's not part of our budget. And I can hear it now when we come to a 2026 budget, and if police cars aren't in there, it's going to be said, well, we didn't do it last year. Well, in my opinion, it should be done every year. I think the purchase of patrol cars should be in our budget every year. I think it's something we should budget for every year because it's something we know we're going to need every year. So that concerns me. So next year, this time of year, when we're dealing with the 2026 budget, I want everybody to know that I'm not going to agree that I voted for it last year because of that. I wanted it to be in the budget, and I want it to be in the budget again next year.
Well, Jeff, I'll go ahead and I appreciate that, and I agree with you that it should be in the budget, but there are certain years we have to choose between that and having any kind of surplus and any ability to give raises. And we're in that situation this year, and that's why I proposed the budget the way I did. So I'll certainly always make that a goal of my proposed budget, and then obviously you all have the ability to change that if you want to, but I agree with you on that should be part of the budget every year. But I think I've given the reasons I didn't feel like we could include them this year. So, but I appreciate your clarification on that. We do have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or comments? Anyone? Okay, this will be a call for the vote.
Carries 5-1, and you'll never guess who the one was.
He knew it was going to pass, surely. Thank you all very much. I appreciate that. Then this will allow our staff to move forward and start working on things before the end of the year. So that's very helpful. Thank you. Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
I believe every year when we pass the budget, we are also required to pass to approve an ordinance to authorize the salaries for certain elected officials. And that's found at item 15F. I believe 15F was also forwarded from the committee to council without recommendation. I'll read the title to that ordinance. An ordinance setting the salaries of the elected officials and planning commission members of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and repealing ordinance number 5907.
Mayor, since I'm not going to be here and y'all don't like to vote on your raises, I move the ordinance be adopted.
Second.
Thanks, Rick. Thank you. Got a motion and a second. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, I'll call for the vote.
Carries 6-0. It does have an emergency clause.
Move emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Okay, this will be a call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carries 6-0, and that's so it can go into effect on January 1st, not tonight.
Thank you. Let's see.
Item number 15G has to do with the contract that the city of Springdale enters into with the Springdale Chamber of Commerce. I believe this item was forwarded from committee meeting to the council with recommendation for approval. And the title to this resolution is a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to enter into an agreement with the Springdale Chamber of Commerce to promote business development and economic growth, to waive competitive bidding, and for other purposes.
Move resolution passes. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other questions? Anyone in the audience? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right. All right, thank you, Jeff. I'm going to turn it over now, item 6. Oh, do you have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Finally, item 15H has to do with the payment of an invoice for a bond project. I'm assuming this was also forwarded to council with a recommendation.
Well, we don't,
No?
remember, we don't take those, it's a, when it's for paying over $1
Anything
million.
over $1 million?
Yeah, we don't take those to council or to committee anymore.
Committee, okay.
This
All
is for
right.
the senior center.
This is a payment for a bill on the senior center. I'll read the title of this resolution. A resolution authorizing payment of an invoice, 2023 bond project number 23BSC1. And Colby's going to address this.
Thank you, Jeff. This is for the senior center bond project. This is for payment of $1.425 million to Buffalo Builders. This was pay up 5.
Move resolution be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Other questions or comments? Anyone? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, now, thank you, Jeff. All right, now we turn it over to our ordinance committee chairman, Mike Overton, for item 16.
We have one item on, that came before the council with a recommendation for approval, and it's an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2775, which granted authority to the Springfield Civil Service Commission to appoint and remove the police chief and fire chief and declaring an emergency. And what this ordinance does is allow the mayor authority for hiring police and fire chiefs, because they are department heads like other department heads we have, and with the proviso that any termination by the mayor may be appealed to the Civil Service Commission.
Move ordinance pass.
Got a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other comments or questions? Anyone in the room? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Move the emergency clause be adopted. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the emergency clause. Call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, Mike. Item, and council, item 17, Police and Fire Committee Chairman Brian Powell.
Thank you, Mayor. We had one item come before us at the last committee meeting, and this is concerning grant funds coming to our firefighters. And Chief is here if we have any questions. I'll read the title of the resolution is a resolution authorizing Springdale Fire Department to pursue federal grant funding through the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program.
Move the
And
resolution be adopted.
This is, again, the writing of the grant is being done by, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, Merchant McIntyre, which is the group that City of Springdale has an agreement with out of DC to help us procure federal funding.
And this equipment will be for it'll cover every.
It'll cover every member of our
yeah.
operations staff, yep. And it does have a match, so that's essentially why I'm here tonight, is we have to show that we're going to accept the grant if it's awarded and can cover the matching funds, which we have in our protective.
You can cover that out of the 2025 budget.
That's right.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
We do have a motion and a second. So any other questions or comments? Anyone in the room? Okay, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Thank you, Brian. Item 18, Committee of the Whole. I'm going to turn these first couple over to our city attorney, Ernest.
Thank you, Mayor. Both of these ordinances, A and B, were both forwarded from Committee of the Whole with recommendation for approval. The first one is an ordinance approving the transfer of a private club permit pursuant to Section 1.274 of the rules of the State of Arkansas Alcoholic Beverage Control Division and declaring an emergency. And I will tell you that the emergency clause was added after the committee meeting at the request of the applicant.
Move ordinance pass.
a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We've got a motion and a second to approve. Any other questions? Anyone in the audience on this one? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0. It has an emergency clause.
Move emergency clause pass.
Now, the emergency clause is just for, because it's a pending action, is that right?
It allows them to hit the ground moving quicker. And
Yeah.
it was my fault it wasn't put on there to begin with.
If you remember, we had one with and one without. Obviously, they're ready to be working on it, so. All right, we do have a motion and a second for the emergency clause. Call for the vote.
Carries 6-0. Item B is an ordinance approving the private club permit for Raise the Bar Foundation and allowing for the application of required permits from the Arkansas Alcoholic Beverage Control Division per Arkansas Code annotated 3-9-222 as amended and for other purposes and declaring emergency. This is for, this is going to be at 202 East Emma, Suite 109.
Move ordinance pass. Second.
Is it typical we have an ordinance pertaining to alcohol permits since they're controlled by a state agency? Is there a statute that says we have to have an ordinance?
Or, since these are private clubs, yes. And it's
Private club, okay.
It's odd because 27 years, I've never seen one, then we get two in one meeting.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Anyone? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right,
Move the emergency clause be adopted.
okay. Call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, council. Items C and D are very similar, but they do require separate votes because the beneficiary would be two different organizations. As I expressed under my email, and I'll not go into a lot of detail, but I'll be happy to answer any questions. Regarding some regular ARPA funds that we had committed, this council had approved for the upskill program run through Accelerate. They have informed us as of yesterday, a meeting yesterday, that they are not going to be able to comply with our need of documentation and other support for that would comply with the regular ARPA funds. So we've, as Colby said on the other issue, we've got until the end of the year to obligate these funds. It's a total of about $884,000, Cody. So I'm bringing forward these resolutions. We gave other awards to both the NWTI Foundation and the NWAC Foundation, and I'm proposing that we split that $884,000 and give $442,000 to each foundation, so that the money will stay here in Springdale and it will continue to benefit Springdale students. And if obviously if they want to, they'll be able to spend this money how they wish, and I don't know if it will be through that Accelerate program or something else. So so I'll read this first one, a resolution to authorize an award to the Northwest Arkansas Community College Foundation from the City of Springdale's American Rescue Plan Act funds to help fund initiatives that promote job training and workforce development for the City of Springdale, Arkansas residents.
Move resolution pass.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve that resolution. Any other questions or comments?
So, Mayor, I know we've given ARPA funds to nonprofits. Is that basically what we're doing here? The similar type of, is that?
It's similar, except actually, Cody, and you clean this up if I mess it up, but we can give to educational foundations with much less red tape.
This is a beneficiary aid.
Right.
Is what it is. Yep.
Whereas the like a regular nonprofit that we would give to would have
Be a
these same
sub-award.
stringent reporting requirements that Accelerate had with us.
Yeah, there's a difference between doing a beneficiary award versus a sub-award. So under the Accelerate Foundation, it was a sub-award. To the schools, it'd be a beneficiary aid to because they're public education.
So this will comply with this beneficiary aid
Correct. Yes.
portion of the ARPA funds?
Yes, we've done this once before to the two schools, the 2 million and the 1 million. And this is just the other part of the whole package money that was supposed to originally occur. It's just making sure it still goes to the same efforts.
Yeah, if y'all will remember, back when we did this, we gave $2 million to NWTI, $1 million to NWAC, and it was done this way, and, because we were able to do that to those foundations. And it was about the same time we did the $880,000 for programming through Accelerate. And that's what's kind of fallen apart now, and so we need to get this out obligated, and it makes sense to me to.
And just to clarify again, if we were not to make this award, then that money would just be lost.
Yeah, I don't know how, this is our last council meeting, more than likely. The time frame would be very short to be able to find a way to obligate that $880,000 by the end of the year.
And both of these programs, both these institutions are for CNAs and for LPNs, which are drastically needed in the area. That was the impetus for the whole program to start with.
Okay, we got a motion and a second on that, on item C. Any other comments or questions? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Thank you. And again, I apologize for the short turnaround on this, but we didn't know for sure how to do this. We didn't know we were going to have to do it until yesterday. Item D, I'll read a resolution to authorize. I'm sorry, had my mic off. A resolution to authorize an award to the Northwest Technical Institute Education Foundation from the City of Springdale American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funds to help fund initiatives that promote job training and workforce development for City of Springdale, Arkansas residents.
Move the resolution pass.
We got a motion and a second for the resolution. Any other questions? Anyone in the room? Okay, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, council. I'm going to turn items 19 and 20 over to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 19 is an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to file a cleanup lien for the removal of overgrown brush and debris on property located within the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and declared an emergency. Property, it's a lot in the Silent Knoll subdivision in Benton County.
Move ordinance pass.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions or comments from the council? Is there anyone in the audience that needs to speak to this property? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
Move emergency clause be adopted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the emergency clause. Call for the vote on the emergency clause.
Carries 6-0. Item 20 is an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to file a cleanup lien for the removal of overgrown brush and debris on property located within the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and declaring an emergency. This is in Washington County. The property address is 201 and a half, is it Riddell? Is that how you say it?
Riddell.
Move ordinance pass.
We have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance. Any other questions? Does anyone in the audience need to speak about this property? All right, call for the vote.
Carries 6-0. As emergency clause.
Move the emergency clause be adopted.
We have a motion and a second to approve the emergency clause. Call for the vote.
Carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. Item 21, a discussion on the second city council meeting and regular city council committee and regular city council meeting in December of 2024.
I move that we punt on any further committee or council meetings so we do not have to suffer through any further deification of Rex Bay.
All right, we have a motion and 2 seconds, including Rex. I All right. I'll call for the vote.
Carry 6-0.
All right.
I'm gonna have to
Thank
look
you.
that word up.
Yeah. Do we have any comments from department heads? Yes, Chief.
I was just going to make you guys aware that I'm going to be bringing back in January, we received a grant from the state for some equipment for a virtual reality training simulator, but we didn't get that information until the end of last week, so we'll bring it in the January meeting.
Thank you, Chief. That's good news. Thank you. Anybody else? How about the council members?
Mayor, I'd like to thank you and the council one more time. I've really enjoyed my time. I don't know if I ever won food grease over, but hopefully I did. And I think Aaron Huntley will do an outstanding job. Thank you. Thank you all. And Denise, have a
Thanks,
good
Rex.
retirement.
I hope this last 2 years have been good for you.
Yeah, I
You've been
appreciate.
good for us.
I
Appreciate it.
appreciate Rex giving us this service to finish out that term, and I really appreciate all the years of service that Denise has given us.
Absolutely.
She's been a terrific city clerk.
Yeah.
They don't call her the queen bee for nothing.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep. All right. City attorney got anything?
Just ditto to what's been said, and if you'd have told me 2 hours and 13 minutes ago that the mayor wouldn't have had to vote on anything, I wouldn't have believed you.
My only comment is that before the meeting started, I said 9 o'clock. Overton said 8:45. Lawson said, "You think it'll last that long?" So I guess he won. So, at least from the three I heard from. So, anyway, everybody have a Merry Christmas if we don't see you before that, and thank you for all you do, and we'll look forward to a great 2025.
So moved.